The last 2 times that we've seen Jasmy do this, it's made new highs. So is the third time a charm? I don't know. We'll have to see, right? But overall, I mean, I think this looks very bullish from what we've seen in the past. Again, given the current market conditions, it's way too early to make any sort of claims like that. But I did want to talk a little bit about it just so you guys are aware and that you can kind of see what potentially could be going on here. So anyway, we'll go on ahead, we'll dive right in. We'll start actually taking a quick look at the Jasmy chart. One thing that we have actually noticed from like the wider altcoin market is that alts actually have not bled harder than Bitcoin in this recent runoff. I think it's been comparable, I believe, but the important news here and kind of the special news about this is the fact that that's typically been what's happened for altcoins. And so the fact that this hasn't, or the bleeding has started to stop, means that maybe potentially some of the capitulation is over. And so, again, we've seen some pretty substantial pulls down from Bitcoin, and obviously, a pretty decently sized dump out of Jasmy itself, but not nearly at the same magnitude that we've kind of seen out of Bitcoin. I mean, I feel like based off the move to the downside that we've seen out of Bitcoin today, I was kind of expecting to see Jasmy be like much lower than this. But what we have seen is that Jasmy has now kind of reached this level, this like major level of support that we actually saw it sit on multiple times in kind of this last consolidation period before the run up to 6 cents. And then also in the consolidation period before we saw the run up to about 4.5 cents here. So I hopefully you can see what I'm getting at. This is kind of what we open the video with, of like, this has happened both times before, and then it goes and runs to make new highs each time. So I think this is something to pay attention to. I would imagine that we probably come back and settle on this level for a little bit, kind of like what we saw back here. If that does happen, not the end of the world. One thing that I actually might do, and the reason that I actually wanted to talk about this on Phemex, is because if we look at the chart here, there was several extended periods of time where we saw Jasmy essentially range trading for months at a time. And one thing that you can do with Phemex is you have a trading bot where you can do a futures grid. If we think we're going to pull into something like this, we could go into a futures grid, essentially go on ahead and make like a neutral range where it buys when it goes lower and it sells when it goes higher. This could be something that could be a pretty interesting idea. So I want to talk to you guys just about Phemex and really kind of quickly about that, if that is something you are interested in. I do have that link in the description below. It is a $4,800 USDT sign up bonus, or I guess up to. So, if that is something that's interesting to you, I would say definitely go ahead and check that out. I love grid trading. I think it's nice because it allows you to trade the volatility. It takes the fear and the greed out of it. It just does its thing. It just plugs along and makes you money passively, which I think is awesome and I love. So anyway, I just want to talk to you a little bit about that, but hopefully you can see kind of how I'm drawing this comparison. We saw, kind of this consolidation level here, made new highs, consolidation level here, made new highs, and now we've drawn all the way back to this level of support. I'm expecting that we'll probably see some level of consolidation, and then maybe we'll see a new high. Maybe it's a little bit shorter and it's not as drawn out as this one was, but I do think there's probably going to be some level of support finding here. I think just kind of to teleport back up to a new high seems somewhat unreasonable to me. Again, anything can happen, right? But if we're thinking about, potentially an April or a May, run up to a new high, that gives us months, or I guess I shouldn't say months, but weeks, several weeks in which we could just be range trading here. So something to think about. If we do look at kind of some of the technicals here on the short term for Jasmy, we can see we're looking at the daily candles here. So we can see at a 37 on the RSI. So that's it's okay. It's in the week, but it's not oversold. I mean, Bitcoin wasn't oversold. It's not technically an oversold anymore, but it wasn't oversold. It was pretty oversold. I think Ethereum was as well. Solana was as well. So, I think, as I said, kind of relatively speaking, Jasmy holding up pretty well compared to some of these others that have seen some relatively decent pullbacks today. I mean, it's not without note, though, that Jasmy's already down about 67% from its recent highs. So, a lot of the selling and the pain we kind of have already felt on something like Jasmy. And so right now we're just kind of chilling. We're waiting for, kind of waiting through another consolidation phase, at least from what it seems to me. And then, maybe we continue to see another run up again, like we've seen twice in the past. So Is this time different? Maybe. Is it not? Maybe. Who knows? It's interesting, an interesting pattern that I think we are seeing here. Now, moving on, what we can see is Hara's actually in Denver right now at ETH Denver. They actually had a event tonight. I am recording this a couple of days beforehand because I am going to be going out to ETH Denver, so I need to get some of these videos kind of pre-planned a little bit. So, really, really sad that I couldn't actually make it there tonight to go to this Jasmy event. It would have been really cool. I guess technically this was a Junction event, but it would have been really cool to meet Hara. Obviously, a lot of us Jasmy fans hear a lot from him via Twitter, and so, or I guess X, I should call it. So yeah, it would have been really cool to meet them there, but that's okay. Maybe next time, or maybe they'll be at other side events or things like that kind of later on in the week, when I'm at ETH Denver. Who knows for sure? Hard to say, but if not, I'll catch them next time. I do plan on attending a couple more crypto events this year, so hopefully Junction or Jasmy ends up being at a couple of different, ones of those. Now, the next thing that I wanted to move on here and talk about was Metaplanet. Metaplanet is a Japanese company, for those of you who are not aware, but what we can see is they've actually just issued 2 billion Japanese yen in 0% ordinary bonds to purchase additional Bitcoin. This is pretty good, this is pretty good news. And the reason why I think that this is good news for Jasmy is because, well, first off, it's increasing crypto adoption in Japan, and up until very, very recently, we'll get to that here in a second, up until very, very recently, Japan has either been kind of agnostic or maybe even kind of leaning towards partially hostile to crypto. And so the fact that we have a fairly large Japanese company really kind of, I would call them almost becoming maybe like the Japanese MicroStrategy, that's really good news, right? Because it's more news coverage, it's just more familiarity, it's more normalization, it's just more kind of general exposure to the Japanese public of just crypto in general. Obviously, Jasmy is very, it is the Japanese token, right? So it's kind of like the main leader of crypto in Japan. And so when we kind of start to see increased exposure, increased normalization, a lot of that type of stuff, I'm thinking that should kind of bode fairly well for Jasmy particularly. And I think Metaplanet is doing a lot to kind of help push this along. I could be wrong, but to me that doesn't seem to be like an illogical leap to make, kind of following that path down. But who knows for sure. And one of the things I wanted to point you to is this is actually something I posted about over 2 weeks ago. So this is not news by any means, but this kind of just furthers along some of what I'm trying to get at here, which is Japan is actually looking to, they're warming up to crypto, which is, I think, a really good thing. We can see that they ended a ban on Bitcoin ETFs, and they also cut taxes on crypto from 55%, which is ridiculous, down to 20%, which is fairly reasonable, I guess. I'm in the US, so maybe fairly reasonable to me is straight up usurious to some of you who may be living internationally. But overall, I think this is good to see, right? All of this type of stuff happening kind of not at once, but kind of in relation to each other, I think is a really, really good thing for Jasmy in the long term. I think Jasmy, given that it has kind of taken on the mantle of the Japanese Bitcoin and really kind of flying the crypto banner for Japan, as Japan starts to warm up to it and get a little bit more involved, I think it could be like an XRP type of situation for Japan. I think XRP, maybe you could call it the not meme coin, or the very, very strong, insane community coin for the US. I think we could maybe see something potentially similar, that kind of what we've seen recently out of XRP, maybe out of Jasmy, when kind of things come along and the Japanese government kind of maybe opens up to it a little bit more. So again, these are just my thoughts. You may agree, you may disagree. I'd love to hear all of them down in the comments below. I do love all the comments and the feedback, all that type of stuff. So if that is something you're interested in doing, just drop them in the comment section below. But yeah, overall, hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you did, please do give me a like and a subscribe. It is really, really helpful to me, and it does kind of help my channel continue to grow, all of that type of good stuff. And also, I'd love to hear your thoughts just on kind of where we're at with Jasmy. Obviously, price is not performing particularly well, at least compared to recently. But hopefully you can see when we looked at the chart earlier how Jasmy does have legs when it wants to, right? And I think this kind of may lend to the argument that Jasmy's maybe somewhat manipulated, and I don't think that that would be super controversial to say, just because I think that's probably pretty fair, right? But because it is manipulated, there's kind of a pattern, at least in my opinion, that it seems to follow to a certain degree. And so, you know, that's something that I kind of like to keep an eye on, and hopefully maybe we can kind of spot it and take advantage of it if it does kind of turn out to be true. So again, you know, assuming crypto isn't over and the bear market isn't set in, all this type of fun stuff, you know, maybe we do see another really, really nice run out of Jasmy, and we're seeing maybe this time, you know, a 3 or 4x, or I guess a 4x instead of what we saw last time, which is a 3x from this price. So we'll have to see. You know, as we looked at the chart, we have made higher highs every single time we've done this. So if that were to happen, probably a 4x would be kind of, I would say, the first target. Obviously, it can always go higher than that, but you know, who's to know for sure where it's actually going to end up. So anyway, like I said, hopefully you found the information in this video. Like, subscribe, comment, do all that. I do read and respond to all of my comments. So if you have anything you want me to see, that'd be a great way to do so. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.